guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome back to another Freaky Friday. That sounds whatever. Anyways, today we're going to be talking about probably one of the most famous cases, if not the most famous case, as for Unsolved Mysteries goes, and that is of Jonbenét Ramsey. And there's a lot to talk about, so let's just get right into it. Alright, so Jonbenét Ramsey was a 6-year-old little girl who was a pageant princess. She lived in Boulder, Colorado. She had what seemed like a seemingly perfect little family. Dad, John, brother Burke, and mom Patsy. And then on the late hours of December 25th into the early hours of December 26, 1996, Jonbenét Ramsey was murdered. Her body was found in the basement of the Ramsey's home. She had a wound in her head where she was hit with some heavy object, and her official cause of death was asphyxiation or strangulation. To this day, the murder is still unsolved. Nobody knows who did it, but there are lots of evidence and lots of theories as to who did it, so let's just get right into that. On the morning of December 26th, Patsy Ramsey called the police, very frantic, saying that her daughter had been kidnapped. She found a ransom note. Whenever she hung up the phone, she actually didn't hang up the phone. Burke, who is Jonbenét's older brother, was thought to have still been asleep, but turns out, or people think that they hear 3 voices at the very end of the 911 call, and Patsy Ramsey seems to be very calm, talking to whoever she's talking to at the other end of on the other end of the phone, or talking to whoever she's talking to, whenever she thought she had hung up the phone. And I've never been able to hear the third voice, but I'll insert a clip to see if you can hear the third voice.
911 emergency.
Police.
What's going on?
515th Street.
What's going on there, ma'am?
We have a kidnapping. Hurry, please.
Explain to me what's going on, okay?
There's a note left and our daughter's gone.
A note was left and your daughter is
Yes.
gone? How old is your daughter?
6 years old. She's gone. 6 years old.
How long ago was this?
I don't know. I just found the note. And my daughter's
Does it say who took her?
What?
Does it say who took her?
I don't know. There's a ransom note here.
It's a ransom note?
It says SBTC. Victory. Please.
Okay, what's your name? Are you
Patsy Ramsey, I'm the mother. Oh my God. Please.
I'm sending an officer over, okay?
Please.
Do you know how long she's been
No,
gone?
I don't. Please, we just got out. Is she right here? Oh my God, please.
Okay, well,
There's somebody.
I am, honey.
Please.
Take a deep breath away,
Please,
okay?
hurry.
Patsy.
And so that brings us to the first piece of evidence, which is the ransom note. The ransom note is really weird, one of the weirdest parts about this entire case. First of all, the ransom note was very long, and it was written inside the Ramsey home. It was written with a pen that the Ramseys had and a piece of paper that the Ramseys had. And then the pen and the paper that was used, the notepad was placed back to where they had found it, and the pen was placed back to where they had found it. Many different professionals have rewrote this note out to try to see how long it would take, and it would take about 22 minutes, which is just really odd that they would, if somebody had just murdered their little girl or taken the little girl, that they would stay in the house for an extra 22 minutes in order to write a ransom note with the utensils that they found at the Ramsey's house, and then take the time to put it back where they found it. Also, at the beginning of the ransom note, you can see that they're trying to disguise their handwriting, and they were going slower. Toward the end, they got sloppy, and it goes back to a separate handwriting. They have done handwriting samples from Patsy, the mother, and from a bunch of other people, and nothing has ever matched up. So the ransom note was eventually thrown out as a piece of evidence because it was not helpful toward anything. Oh, another part of the ransom note that was really odd was that they had asked for $180,000, which was, or it might have been 118, I'm not positive, but that was exactly the amount of money that Jon Ramsey had gotten as a bonus from his work earlier in the year. And not very many people would know that, so it had to be somebody that knew the Ramseys well to know that or that's just an odd amount of money to ask for, 180,000. The only people in the house on the night of Jon Benet's murder were her family members, Jon, Patsy, and Burke. And Patsy, despite the instructions on the ransom note specifically saying not to call the police, the first thing she did at 5:52 in the morning was call the police. So after the police call, police responded to the scene within 3 minutes. The house was searched. Jonbenet's room was blocked off as evidence. However, eventually Jonbenet's body was found in the house, and that's just odd that the police came and searched the house and they didn't find Jonbenet's body. Like, why didn't they go in the basement and check? That's just so odd to me. The rest of the house was not blocked off as evidence, which eventually friends and family came over. They were in and out of the house. They were contaminating the crime scene. It was just a really awful job on the Boulder police's part. At about 1 p.m. on the 26th, Jon Benet's father, ended up finding her body in the basement of the family home, covered up with a blanket. Jon Benet's father immediately picked Jon Benet's body up and moved her into the living room, and then the police chief ended up picking her up and moving her again, which once again is contaminating the evidence and just could mess up the entire investigation. During the autopsy report, there was undigested pineapple that was found in Jon Benet's stomach, which is interesting because there was a bowl of pineapple sitting on the table of the Ramsey's home that morning, but it only had Burke and Patsy's DNA in it, and pineapple was Jon Benet's favorite food. So both Patsy and Jon Ramsey said that they do not remember putting the pineapple bowl out, and they said that Burke was asleep several hours after the police had arrived. He was then awoken. His fingerprints were found on the bowl of pineapple, which is just odd. Just makes it seem like the Ramseys are lying about something. And the last important piece of evidence found was some sort of DNA in Jon Benet's underwear. In 2003, the DNA was extracted to try to form a match, and it belonged to an unknown male person, which leads you to believe that Jon Benet was sexually molested before she was killed. But the DNA did not match anybody in the system, in the police's database. So once the police investigation started, the police focused almost all of their attention onto Patsy and Jon Ramsey, which I probably would have done too. They seem to be pretty guilty. There's a lot of lying involved. But the Ramseys refused to be interviewed by the police. However, they did go on TV and were interviewed on TV, which is just, once again, pretty odd. Now that we've gone through all of the evidence, we're going to talk about some theories and some suspects in the case. There are quite a few, but there was about 1,600 people that were considered to be the murderer of Jon Benet throughout the entire investigation, which is still an open investigation, by the way. There are two really main theories. The first theory is an intruder theory, that somebody random came in the house, actually did leave the ransom note, which still doesn't really make sense, because if an intruder came in the home, left a ransom note, why did they kill her and leave her in the basement? Like, if they actually wanted the money, they could have just kept her alive. Like, that just really doesn't make sense. Along with this theory, the intruder was most likely somebody that the Patsy's had developed a relationship with. One of the suspects was a neighbor named Bill McReynolds, who had played Santa Claus, and he came in the Ramsey's home. I'm not too sure how true this statement is, but I watched a documentary on Netflix that was called, I think it was Casting Jon Benet or something like that, or Casting the Ramseys. I don't know. It was really interesting documentary. But somebody said that the Santa Claus Bill was found in Jon Benet's room, like talking to her in a really odd way, and that Jon Benet had given him a bracelet or some sort. I'm not too positive about this information, but I found it really interesting. Jon Benet had given him some sort of bracelet, and at her funeral, whenever they asked if anybody wanted to say anything, he stood up and talked about the bracelet and talked about the relationship that they had, and he barely knew her, which was just really odd. So, and then the second theory is that a family member had done this to Jon Benet. Personally, this is what I believe. I believe Patsy Ramsey did it. Apparently, Jon Benet had an issue with wetting the bed. This is what people think. This isn't the theory I believe, but apparently Jon Benet had problems with wetting the bed, and she had wet the bed that night, and Patsy got really mad and just like hit her over the head, and then drug her to the basement and strangled her and killed her and left her there, and then had to cover it up. The theory is that the older brother Burke did it. got mad at her and hit her in the head with a flashlight, which was found at the scene as evidence as well. Or whenever Burke hit her in the head with the flashlight, it knocked her out. And so Patsy had to cover it up and protect her son, so she strangled her and killed her that way, which she wasn't actually dead, but Patsy probably didn't know that. However, Burke was never considered a suspect, and most people think that Burke did do it, so that's kind of odd that he was never even considered a suspect by the police. Years later, once Burke was completely grown up, he did an interview on Dr. Phil, and it's so creepy, it's so eerie, it makes him seem guilty. He's laughing, like almost like thinking back, like, oh, good memories, like whenever my sister was murdered, like super, super weird. And I'll insert a clip of him talking here, just super odd.
DI, Burke did it. Do you know the theories that they set forth in saying that your mom killed Jonbenét?
I don't know the details, but I know the ransom note, they think the handwriting matched.
Have you seen it? Have you read it?
I don't think I've read the whole thing. I've definitely seen pictures of it, though.
Did the handwriting look familiar to you at all? Had you seen it ever before?
No. I feel like the listen carefully is very distinct, and I've never really seen that. I don't know, I've never really looked at it closely, because I'll see it and kind of get taken aback, and it's not something I really want to look at like a lot, you know?
Right. Does that look like her?
2006, a 41-year-old teacher falsely confessed to the murder of Jonbenét Ramsey. His name was John Mark Carr. He claimed that he had drugged, sexually assaulted, and accidentally killed her. However, he only provided facts that the public had already known, and there was no evidence linking him to the murder. And his claim that he had drugged Jonbenét was also disputed because there was no drugs found in Jonbenét's system during the autopsy. And really, that's about it for this case. And the case, like I said earlier, is still open today. This is really one of the most famous cases. Let me know who you think did it. I think Patsy Ramsey did it. I think she was jealous of her daughter. There was also another theory that I saw in the documentary that I was talking about earlier, where the unidentified male DNA that was found in Jonbenét's underwear was actually from her father, and Patsy found John messing with Jonbenét and freaked out, and instead of killing him, she was jealous of her and killed her. So that's another theory that I find really interesting as well. But I think Patsy did it because she was jealous of her. And that's it, that she was just jealous of her. But yeah, let me know if you like this video. Give it a thumbs up. Like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye.